All right. So just to give you guys a heads up or an idea of how far ahead we actually are, last year, so this is my notebook from last year, and if you look at the date, we started this unit towards the very end of November, and yet you guys are starting it like at the beginning of November. So that's very good. It means that you guys are going to have a little bit more time or some more wiggle room. Okay, Brent, you realize you're being recorded, right? You're being recorded. All right. Christopher. Are the finals for 7th grade going to be on this for you guys? Yes. Your final exams. So just as a reminder, your milestones, that's only 7th grade material. So you guys, unfortunately, you only got the 3 units of 7th grade material for milestones. But when it comes to your final exams are going to be a mirror of what we do in class. So everything that we did at the very beginning of the semester all the way until the end of the semester is going to be what's on your final exam. Okay? Yes.
Was your last class gifted?
Yes. She wanted to know if last year's class was also gifted. All right. So just as a reminder, rational numbers. The idea of rational numbers. If we have a rational number written in decimal form, if it is a rational number, when it is written in decimal form, it is either one of two things. It's either going to repeat, so it repeats like 0.333333333 keeps going on and on and on and on, or it's going to terminate, so 0.3. 0.3 and 0.3 repeated are two totally different values. Okay, 0.3 is 3/10. 0.3 repeated is 1/3. Those are different representations. Okay, so a lot of times people think, oh, well, I got 0.3 repeated, so I'm just going to put 0.3 as my answer. You can only put 0.3 as your answer if they're asking you to round it. And typically, if it's going to be something that's going to repeat, they're going to have you round it to like the 100th or the 1000th place value so that you get the idea of that repetition and not necessarily thinking that it's the same thing as 3/10. Okay? All right. So you guys already know how to convert a fraction to a decimal or a decimal to a fraction, right? Who can remind us to convert a decimal to a fraction? Now, I know you guys have the calculators, and you can do it that way, but if you were to have to do it without the calculator, because that's something that would be asked on the milestones, you've got about 10 questions on the milestones that has no calculator use on it. So you wouldn't be able to even use your calculator for those kind of questions. And that would be the kind of question. They would have you doing integers and fractions on those types of questions. So who can tell us, if we didn't have a calculator, how do you convert a decimal to a fraction? So for example, if we have 0.25, how do we convert that into a fraction? Emiliano?
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't remember how to convert it.
That's what I'm going over. That's why I'm asking if anybody knows how to, because I'm going to go over it if you don't. Salman?
But you see how many times it goes into the end of 25 goes into one time?
No, not quite. Because like 33. 33 can, I mean, if you had 0.33, it wouldn't work the same way. So you guys have to think differently about that. Jane?
Well, the decimals and the digits.
Okay.
So it's 25 out of 100.
So this is the 100th place. which is going to represent your denominator. So your denominator is going to be a 100. Okay, and now the actual decimal value, the 25, whatever's behind the decimal, that's going to be your numerator. So you'd have 25 over 100. And then, of course, you would have to simplify, which would simplify to 1/4. Okay, same thing if I have 0.625. 0.625. Again, the last number, this is the place value. What place value is that? The thousandth. So this is the thousandth place value. So that means my denominator is going to be what? 1,000. My denominator is going to be 1,000. And then what's my numerator? 625. And then you see if you can simplify it, which it can be simplified. Who can tell me what it simplifies to? Yeah. Well, that's why you just got to keep trying them. Do 625 divided by 5 and do 1,000 divided by 5, and then you would notice that you can actually simplify it even more. It's going to simplify to what, Antonio? 5 over 8. Okay, so they can both be simplified by 125. That's the largest that it can be simplified by. But even if you don't know what the largest value is that you can simplify it by, you can always break it down and go, okay, well, I know I can do it by 5s because they end in a 5 and a 0. Oh, and once you do that, they're still going to end in a 5 and a 0, so keep doing it again. Oh, and they still can end in a 5 and a 0, so let me do it again. Okay? Now, if I told you that you needed to convert a fraction to a decimal. So if I wanted to go from 1/4 and convert it to 0.125, or I'm sorry, 0.25, how would I convert a fraction into a decimal? What is the process there, Brent? Yeah, you just divide. You're going to take, so all a fraction bar is, guys, is a division sign. So you're going to take your numerator and you're going to divide it by your denominator. Another little thing, a little trick that I used to teach my 6th graders is top and box. Top and box. So if it's a division box, the top goes inside the box. So the 1 goes inside and the 4 goes outside. I used to tell them that the denominator, I would shorthand write it as Dino. Anybody know who Dino is from the Flintstones? It's like the dinosaur dog, right? And Fred Flintstone's always trying to kick Dino out of the house. So I used to tell them your Dino, your denominator, always needs to get kicked out of the house. So just little things that you can remember. Okay, so now 4 doesn't go into 1. That's why we would put a 0. Put a decimal and bring it up into your problem and add some zeros at the end. 4 can go into 10 2 times. And then 4 can go into 20 5 times. Okay, and then you would be done. Once you've canceled it out and everything is gone, then you're done. There's your decimal answer, 0.25. So those are just the quick ways to be able to convert. Now notice that these are all terminating values. And it's easy to convert a fraction into a repeated decimal. It'd be no different, like 1/3. You would get, let's try that. Let's do that one. If we were to take the 1, put it inside the house, take the 3, put it outside of the house, 0 can't go into 1, so I put a decimal and bring a 0 behind it. 3 can go into 10 3 times, but then I have a 1 remaining. So if I add another 0, again, it can go into 10 3 times, and it's just going to keep doing that, isn't it? So that's when we notice, oh, it's a repeated value. So we would get 0.3 repeated. No problem. What we're going to learn today, so this is the basics that you've already known or should have already known. What we're going to learn today is how do we convert when we've got a repeated decimal and need to convert that into a fraction. So I'm going to go ahead because I'm not going to have enough room to do one of the problems on this page. So I'm going to go ahead and change it over to page 69. And it's going to involve algebra. To do those kind of conversions, you're going to need to use your algebra skills. That wasn't a, huh? It's going on to page 69. You just wanted me to say that, didn't you? It's a number, guys. Get over it. All right, so how to convert a repeating decimal into a fraction. So let's start off with a simple one, 0.7 repeated. So I know that that 7 is going to keep going on and on and on. So it's 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. So we're going to first go ahead and assign 0.7 as a variable. So we're going to assign that x, the value x, is equal to 0.7 repeated, which is like 7, 7, 7, 7. It just keeps going on and on and on. Now, what I'm wanting to do is I want to get that repetition to move itself into the whole number value. So how many numbers is repeating?
One.
Just one. One number is repeating itself over and over and over again, isn't it? Might be worded a little weirdly, but it's just one value that's repeating over and over and over again. Just that one number. So if I wanted to get this one number to move itself in front of the decimal, how can I get a number to move, or how can I get this decimal to move one space backwards? What am I going to do? What? And what operation is that? If I want to make it bigger, I have to multiply. Okay, so what you're doing is you're multiplying by base units of 10. So I'm going to multiply by 10 so that I can move the decimal. I want to move the decimal into the whole number. So I want to move it past so that I have a whole number now. Now, if I multiply one side by 10, so I'm going to multiply by 10 here, 10 times 0.777, and it keeps just going. If I do that to one side, I have to do it to the other so that I can keep it balanced. Remember, it's just like equations. I want to keep this balanced, so I'm going to multiply the x by 10 as well. If x is equal to 0.77777, then 10x is equal to 10 times 0.77777. Does that make sense? One side's multiplied by 10, the other side's multiplied by 10. So that now gives me 10x is equal to 7.777, and it keeps going. Nope. Now what I want to do is I'm going to now go ahead and I'm going to subtract by the original x value. So this right here, this is my original. I want to subtract it from both sides. So what's 10x minus x? 9x. I have 10 x's, and I'm subtracting an x away. I'm left with 9x. And then notice, if I do 7.77777 and I'm minusing 0.77777, what's left then? Just 7.0, just 7. See, all of this right here is going to get canceled out. All that's going to be gone, and you're just left with 9x is equal to 7. Well, now I can go ahead and I can get x by itself. To get x by itself, I would divide both sides by a 9. But remember, division is also written as a fraction. So if I leave it in its fraction form, 0.7 repeated is the same thing as 7 over 9. And that's it. That's how you convert repeated decimals into fractions. That's all it is. It is easy. This is basic algebra. You've been doing algebra the whole time. Basic skills of algebra. Oh, David's in actual algebra class. This is just the basic preview of algebra. You're free. All right. Let's try another one. If we have 0.48 and the 48 is repeating, so essentially, again, if I'm going to assign x, x is the same thing as saying 0.484848, and it just keeps going. Yeah, I don't like echoes, so stop. So we know that we have to multiply in order to get our repeated unit into our whole number. How many numbers are being repeated? 2, right? We just have this 4 and this 8 that are being repeated, so that means I need to multiply by what, Brent? 100. If we multiply by 100, it'll move it 2 units. So we're going to multiply by 100 to the x, and we're going to multiply by 100 to that 0.48 repeated. Okay, so then that's just going to give us 100x is now equal to 48.484848. It just keeps going. All right, what was the next step? Demi? Subtract by the original x value. Okay, so we're going to subtract the original x. So I'm going to subtract x from here, which means I'm also going to be subtracting 0.48 repeated from the other side. Once I do that subtraction, what value of x is left? 99x. Good. And then what is left on this side? 48. And then all you would have to do is divide by 99 on both sides. But again, you can leave it in its fraction form. So we have x is equal to 48 over 99. Now, we can simplify this. They're both divisible by what? 3. They are. Y'all realize you're being recorded and you're being ridiculous. And I have no problem sending this to your parent later. They're both divisible by 3. You would need to make sure that you go ahead and simplify them. And that would give us 16 over 33 as our simplified fraction. Christopher. 100x minus 1x gets you 99x. Huh? 99, I said. No, he said, where'd you get the 99? All right. Let's move on to page 70. I want you guys to try 2 of them on your own before I send you off to do your own assignment. Hush. Do both of those on your own. Huh? If they are ones that you're doing on your own, then you don't need to. Shh. right, who can raise their hand and tell me what they got for number 3? Jimmy Ho. 2/11 is correct. Let's take a look at that real quickly. So we know that we've got x is equal to 0.18 repeated. So it's 181818. Because there are 2 numbers that are repeating, I'm going to multiply by 100 onto both sides, which would then give me 100x is now equal to 18.18 repeated. Then I'm going to subtract the original, so I'm going to subtract x and subtract 0.18 repeated from both sides, which would then leave me with 99x equaling 18. I would then divide both sides by 99, but again, I'm wanting to put it in fraction form, so it means I'm going to leave it as 18/99, but they both can be divided by 9. Both of these are divisible by 9. 18 divided by 9 gives me 2, and 99 divided by 9 gives me 11, so I get 2/11. Okay? And then for problem number 4, in simplest form, what is 0.3174 repeated going to be, Saja? Yes, very good. 1,058/333. So again, x is going to equal to 0.3174, and it's just going to keep going. Because I've got 4 numbers that are repeating, I'm going to go ahead and multiply this by 10,000. Okay, however many numbers are repeating is the number of zeros that you're multiplying with. Okay? So multiply by 10,000. It's got 4 zeros in it. So that's going to leave me with 10,000 x is now equal to 3,174.3174. Keeps going and going. We're then going to subtract x and subtract 0.3174 repeated from both sides. That's then going to leave you with 9,999x equaling 3,174. To get x by itself, you divide by 9,999. Now, I know that this is a larger fraction to work with, and you won't have to work with something so large on your assignment today. But when you look at them, they're both divisible by 3. And the way that you can tell it's divisible by 3, guys, 3 is an easy rule. If you add all the numbers together and you get a value that's divisible by 3, then the whole thing's divisible by 3. And here's what I mean. What's 3 plus 1? What's 4 plus 7? 11 plus 4. 15 is divisible by 3. So that means 3,174 is divisible by 3. Okay? And the same thing, 9,999. If you add 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9 together, you're going to get 36. 36 is divisible by 3. Okay? So the whole thing is divisible by 3. And that's going to give you the 1,058/3,333. And that's as simplified as it's going to get. Now, just some key reminders. If you have if we have 1.5 and I want to convert that, just as much as I know that this is my numerator and that this is the 10th place, so that means that that's my denominator. What does this 1 represent? The whole number. So don't forget that there are such things as whole numbers. So this would convert it into a mixed number, 1 and 5/10, which would then be able to simplify it to 1 1/2. Okay, so don't forget that the number beforehand happens to be a whole number. And same thing, if you had 1 1/2 to convert to a decimal, the 1 would go before the decimal, the half, you would have to do that conversion to 0.5 to be after the decimal. Any questions? All right, fantastic. Let me get you your homework sheet.